Hello, welcome to the training webinar. I'm Dale Franks, and today we are going to talk not about building things and configuring things, but managing things, specifically managing processes. And when we talk about managing processes, we're talking about managing both the timeline instance itself and also form instances as well. So let me share my screen. And we're looking at a regular process timeline definition. Our first step in managing processes is to actually get some sort of overall look about how our process is working. Even if you never have to go into a process and make changes to it, you never have to go into a form and edit it or what have you, you still want to have some idea of how well your process is running in general. Your basic problem as a designer, especially whenever you are building processes that you don't know much about from a management point of view. You know enough to build it. You know what the process is supposed to do. But you don't know the process itself because you're not a specialist in that process. You're generally a specialist in building processes, but not a specialist in each of the individual processes. And even the people who are supposed to manage the processes, who know how they're supposed to work, don't really have an idea, at least not a good one, at the outset, of how a process is going to work once it's automated. The problem is, many times, whenever you are automating a process and you're building an application to do it, like in this case, this request form that we use in our Advanced Design Concepts series of webinars, is that what you're doing is you are trying to automate a process that up until now has probably had some sort of manual element to it, a paper element, if you will. Pretend it's 1973 and you're going to request leave. Well, how do you do that? Well, there's probably some form that you have to, pull out of a drawer from somewhere because it's a pre-printed form because it is 1973. And you're going to fill that form out. And then you're going to have to hand carry it over to your supervisor and physically hand it to them. And they are going to look at it and do whatever they need to do to see if they have the ability to schedule a vacation for you. And then they'll put the appropriate writing on it and signature on it. And then they have to hand carry it to someone else who does the approval. And eventually it goes into HR, and HR processes it, and they ensure that you get paid for vacation rather than regular working time. It was all manual. Now, in the 90s and 2000s, we all started getting computers, so things did get slimmed down a bit. So your form was probably an electronic form, maybe a PDF, and you would fill it out online and you would attach it to an email. And now you're emailing it back and forth, and that's better, but it's still a manual process of people contacting each other and sending forms back and forth. Now that takes a certain irreducible amount of time. So whenever it comes to automating a process and building something like this request process, people will tell you as you're the builder, or maybe if you're the person who runs the process and you're building it, you have this thought in your mind of how long the process takes currently. So the hand carrying thing from 1973 probably took a little extra time just for people to walk around and hand papers to each other and read them. Okay, we cut down on that time whenever we switched over to computers, and now we're kind of doing it by email, but there's still a manual element to it. I get the email message, I have to have the time to read it, and then when I finally do, I send it off. All the other things that take place whenever it's a non-automated process. But that's the only criteria that enables us to guess at how long it takes to do all of these tasks whenever we automate it. Now, we might be wildly wrong about the amount of time each of these tasks takes. We could be wrong on either overestimating the amount of time or underestimating the amount of time. And we don't really know. So it's always a good practice whenever you have something in production and it's running and you've got, a decent number of requests that you can look at to see how the process is running. It's good to be able to judge whether your design for this process is at least close to how long the process actually works in practice. So in the timeline definition itself, there is an analyze timeline view that you can turn on. And what the analyze timeline view will do is it will tell you how closely the actual performance of your process comports with the configuration that you have made for your process. Now, in this particular case, all of these activities take a fairly short amount of time, and most of them were started and completed during the course of one or another webinar that I did. So I'm going to expect this to be fairly close. And it is fairly close because if I look at my tasks, the very first one, the approval section, that is a parent activity. It's also a looping activity. And it's going a little faster than the 2 days that were allotted to it by about 14%. So it's predicted to end in about 1.7 days when it's configured to end in 2 days. So that's close enough for government work. This is running largely as expected. Hence, the little triangles for my start and predicted end times and the little blue bar between them. Well, there's a reason they're blue, and they're blue because this is doing okay. Of course, if I go down to the next line, now I see these bars in red, and I note that, well, this bar is extending beyond the little gray configuration bar. So this is configured for 1 day. However, it's going a little long. It is taking 1.3 days on average to complete. It's 27% slower than I would like it to be. All right, well, that kind of nudges it over into the red. I said that this would take a day. It's actually taking on average 1.3 days. Now, what that means is, of course, about half of my submissions are taking less than 1.3 days, but half of them are taking more than 1.3 days. Remember, this is just the average completion time. And I'll say half and half using average, which I think is a close enough approximation. So this is not going the way that I want it to go. On average, it's 27% slower, which means approximately half of my participation times in this particular activity are going longer than 1.3 days. I have a couple of questions that I need to ask here. Is this because I'm a bad process designer? Or is this because my users are weasels and they're not doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it? I don't know the answer to that question simply by looking at this particular red bar, but I do know that there is an issue, that this is taking longer than it should. I think my default assumption is going to have to be, especially if this is a new process and I have just implemented it, and assuming there are no hard and fast rules that require people to get a task done within a certain time, I'm going to assume that I made a misjudgment of how long this task actually takes. The trouble with being a process designer, especially for processes that you don't work with every day, and look, even if you're the manager, you may not work with the process every day. You have some idea of how fast it should run, how long it should take to complete that process. But you might still not have the appropriate appreciation of the difficulty of getting the task done in that amount of time. You may think you've allocated an adequate amount of time to complete the task, but chances are you probably haven't. In the real world, there are competing priorities for people's time and attention. And perhaps due to the importance or lack of importance of this particular task, it goes pretty low on people's priority list. Or perhaps there are wrinkles to getting this task done that you, as a person who doesn't do it every day, simply don't appreciate. And the nice thing about the timeline analysis view is that it allows you to look into these processes and say, okay, this is taking way longer than it should. Why is that true? And you can begin to investigate. It may be that you are going to have to go back and make some changes to this task and its due date and the expected duration of the task that more appropriately matches the real world circumstances under which this task runs. On the other hand, you might see a lot of green. So in this particular case, we are getting this task done, this HR action task, done in 31% less time on average than we had configured for this task. Now, in this particular case, the task takes a day. We're probably not going to configure it to take less than a day. So there's, in this specific instance, not much we can do. But let's say that this was a task that we had allocated to take, a month. And it's getting done on average 31% faster. Well, if we assume a month is 30 days and we just slice 31% off of that, what that really means is that on average, this task is being completed in 20 days. So just as we do whenever we see the red and it disturbs us, well, seeing the green should disturb us, although perhaps to a lesser extent in that, well, this is going faster than I predicted. Maybe I overestimated the amount of time and I can adjust the time to a more reasonable value that comports with how long it actually takes to get this done. I thought it would take a month, but actually people are getting it done in about 3 weeks. So maybe I can cut a week off of this. And instead of saying, well, let's get it done in 30 days, I can say, all right, fine, let's get it done in 21 or 22 days. And that would comport more closely with the actual average that I'm seeing in my timeline analysis. So the timeline analysis view is our first stop that we take on seeing how well our process is doing over time and gives us a good management overview of how our process is working. And we can see what's working well and what's working poorly. And then we can make some changes to our process in changing our due dates. We're going to talk about changing processes and how it affects in-flight stuff in the future. However, a change like this, where I would just go through and say, you know what, I don't need this to run for 30 days. I can make this activity run for, let's say, 22 or 25, and I can cut some time off of that, and it will be closer match how my process actually runs. And you can do that without really worrying much about how it's going to affect any in-flight processes. First of all we're doing is changing durations. We're not removing activities. We're not adding activities. We are not changing the structure of the process timeline. So we can safely go into the timeline itself and we can open up the activity and we can play around with this duration. I didn't even set the duration at all. So I set it to business days. And maybe this is a bad example. Maybe this is a better example. The supervisor approval task, where I say it's taking 1 day. You know what? Maybe I should change the activity and I should set it to take up 2 days. And I can go ahead and update my process timeline. And having updated my process timeline, I can now look and see that because I have updated it, my red band has turned to a blue band. I'm still doing it a little faster than I expected. I'm still 20% faster, but that's in the ballpark of where I need to be for this task. And so my red has now turned to blue. Now, this is not going to affect any running tasks. Any of the running activities that happen to be in this particular task, the supervisor approval task, they will not change. The duration of the task and the assignees and all of the other properties associated with this task instance were set on task start. I haven't changed any assignees, so that doesn't affect who's doing the task. I haven't ended the task or deleted the task, so it's still going to run. The only thing that's going to happen is that the next time a supervisor approval task starts, rather than assigning it 1 day as the duration, process director will assign it 2 for those tasks that are currently running. It's still running as a 1-day duration task, and any due date stuff that you have associated with it will all run at the appropriate time because those tasks have already been created based on the template, i.e. the property settings that existed when that task was created. Other than that, you're not really going to see any effect on any running in-flight activities. All that's going to happen, the only thing that's going to change is that all future supervisor approval activities will now be set with a 2-day duration instead of a 1-day duration. So this is a very safe change to make in terms of how it affects any running activities. We'll take a look at how running activities work a little bit later when we make more substantive changes. I should point out that what you should do is not make this change in production the way that, well, this is not really a production server. I guess this is my dev server, so it's perfectly safe to make a change here. This is all just testing data anyway. But fine, I am super happy with this. I like my change. What I would do in the real world is I would export this entire application. So I would go to I wouldn't go to that folder. I'd actually go to its parent folder, the Advanced Design Concepts folder, and I would export this entire application from my dev system, and I would re-import it into my production system. Even though this is an easy and quick change, do not fall into the habit of going onto your production system and making little tweaks to stuff. That's never a good idea. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is make your changes on dev, export the entire application, re-import that application into production. It'll overwrite your changes on the running version. But if you get into the business of making changes on dev manually, and thinking, or not dev, but on production manually, and then thinking, well, I'll go fix it in dev later. If you're anything like me, half of the time you will not go back and fix it in dev later. You'll just forget. And the next time you re-import this because you've made a different change somewhere else, perhaps a more major change, you'll reset your supervisor approval from 2 days back to 1 day because you didn't replicate your change on dev. Making changes on production, generally not a great idea. Make your changes in dev, import to production. So this is my first step in managing processes, just looking at the timeline management view or timeline analysis view. And by the way, once you're done with that, you can go back and look at your timeline definition just by switching the view back. But that timeline analysis view is very useful, especially if you're a process administrator, and that should be your first stop as a process administrator to see how your process is actually working and comporting with conditions in the real world. Once you have running processes, well, you're going to need to probably manage them. And there are 2 things that you have to worry about as a process manager. The first thing you have to worry about is whether you have any processes in error on your system. So if you manage a process director system, you should have a knowledge view for processes in error. Now, I know in custom utilities, there is a processes in error folder, which has a processes in error knowledge view. And I don't particularly like it, but we're going to run the one that we've created for you. Okay, I do have a single process in error. It's good to know this, and it's good to know this on a daily basis. Now, I'll tell you why I don't like this particular one is because it doesn't tell me where the process is. It does give me access to the process instance. And that's useful. And as we'll see in a second, when we open up a process instance, we can always get back to the definition. But I kind of want to know where this is. And I would like a folder path here. And in the one that we create for you, there is no folder path. So if you have downloaded the custom utilities from the support site and you've installed them on your Process Director server, you have this folder and you have this knowledge view. So I would do one of two things. First of all, it's just a knowledge view. It's on your server. If you feel comfortable in editing it, knock yourself out, edit away. Or you may just want to make a copy of it because I don't like this default version. Now, I don't want to change this default version on this particular machine because I do want to keep it in its original state because who knows, sometime in the future, I might talk about this again and I'm going to want to look at this in situ the way that we provide it to you. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this processes in error knowledge view and I'm going to rename it. When I copy it, it gives it the name copy anyway, which is fine. But I think I want to rename this Dale's copy so that it's my copy. The processes in error knowledge view, by the way, is super easy to create. If you don't want to download the custom utilities and run the processes in error knowledge view that way, if you want to create your own, it's really simple to do. So properties, well, we don't really do anything here because we want to pull all of our running timeline instances. On our configure tab, there's probably not much that we want to do here. Now on the options tab, there is something we want to do. Now this includes workflow instances. We don't recommend that you use workflow. And if you haven't been a customer for more than Well, if you've been a customer for more than 10 years, you probably have some workflows in there. If you've been a customer for less than 10 years, you probably shouldn't have any workflows. You should probably just go with timeline instances. I'm going to turn workflow instances off because I don't use workflows. And in fact, I really haven't used workflows since I started working at BP Logix, and certainly not since version 4.5, whenever we kind of deprecated them. I'm going to turn it off. And the reason that I'm going to turn it off, and by the way, this is not a bad idea if you are just editing the processes in error, the regular processes in error knowledge view. You might want to turn this off anyway, and I'll tell you why. Because clicking this box opens up a whole Pandora's box of other SQL that has to be run to pull back not only timeline instances, but workflow instances. And if you don't have any workflow instances, it's still going to check and it's still going to add those workflow instances and all of the weird inner and outer joins to the SQL. And it's going to make your query run much slower. I don't use workflows. I don't need them. So I'm going to uncheck them here because I just want to make this as efficient as possible. And by just unchecking this box, I probably cut the speed at which it runs by at least a third. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, had a conversation with a customer who would try to run this processes in error knowledge view, and it would just take forever for them to run. And they do have a lot of processes and tens of thousands of users. So there's a lot going on there. But what's not going on in their system are workflow instances because they don't have any. And all we did is just go in and uncheck that box, and it made this run much faster. And so far beyond a 30% increase, it was like a 80% increase in how long it took, or sorry, an 80% decrease in how long it took to run simply because we unchecked workflow instances. So if you don't use workflow, there's no reason to have that checked at all. I would uncheck it. We'll come back to the columns because we're going to add a column anyway. We'll take a look at the filters. This is the only filter I need. I just need to pull processes in error. So basically, discounting everything else, what I have is a knowledge view that is set up to not be associated with any particular object. So it's going to return everything. It's only going to return timeline instances, and it's only going to return timeline instances where the process in error equals yes. So it's only going to return things that have a problem. Now, as I said, not super happy with all of these columns. There's nothing wrong with the columns that are here. There's just a column that I like that we're missing. You don't have to do this, but I'm just telling you, I find it super convenient to have a column with the folder path of the object so that I can get an idea of where it exists in my content list. Once your content list has, several hundred items in it, yes, we have the search feature for 6.1 and we have the filter feature, and that certainly makes your life a heck of a lot easier, but it also makes your life a little bit easier if you can just create a column for the folder path and you can just go to object information and folder path and set that as your column value. And I'll probably want this column to be a little bit higher on the list. I think I like it right after the name. So now when I update and run, it pulls back my single process that has a problem. And then I can open this up and look at it, although we are not going to open it up at the moment. This is really helpful if you are a manager of a process director system. So you really do need a processes in error knowledge view. I like having the folder path. And in my case, I have things that are buried pretty deep in folders because of the way that I organize. So I really do need to be able to find the folder path so I can go back and find that original object, whose name, by the way, I might know. Now, normally I call things TL. Trouble is, I can't do a search for TL on my system because despite my excessively organized folder structure, if I do, I don't know, sample as a search, that's not going to be very helpful for me because I call everything sample. So while the search is useful, if I have some unique value, for me, if I go sample, I think probably if I type in TL, I'm going to get the same thing. There we go. There's every object in my system that is named TL. They're all timelines, or the word TL is in there somewhere. So in this case, the name is actually TL. That's not going to help me find it. My search is not going to help me find it. Like I said, the search is great, nice to have, but it's a lot easier if I can just pick up on the folder path and just grab it here. So now I know exactly where I need to look in my content list to find the parent object for this particular process. To find your running timelines. Now, this is processes in error, and this is important, but even if you don't have a process in error, because processes in error should be relatively rare, and they're kind of a special circumstance, and we'll come back to processes in error in a little bit, and we'll rerun this, and we'll play around with this process. For the most part, whenever you're managing your processes, you're really going to be opening up the process itself. So, and that's not the process I wanted. Sorry, I want to go way back up here. So I have my advanced form timeline, and I can look and see my active timelines, which I have none. and my completed timelines, which are all right here. This is generally the first way that we get to our timelines. So the nice thing about this is, and it works the same whether we're in active or completed, all of these are completed, so we'll just do it here, is the ability to just be able to find a timeline real quickly. Now, I talk a lot about having a unique number that identifies a particular request. So HR 21-0031 should only match a single request. It does make finding it a lot easier. Usually, if we're doing this on the active timelines, it's because there's something that needs to change in the process timeline itself. This is not technically an error with the timeline. The definition does what it's supposed to do. The timeline instance is doing what it's supposed to do. But let's say that someone is assigned to a task and they've gone on vacation. Okay, the task is supposed to be assigned to them. I guess they were technically supposed to do the task. They didn't do the task. Somebody else needs to do it. And the only way that I can do that is by editing the timeline instance itself. So I'm going to create a knowledge view. And by the way, I want a currently running one. So what I need to do is I've created a knowledge view, and we'll go over this. We'll go over this knowledge. Well, that's, you know what? That's fine. Here's the knowledge view. It's just called KView. What I want to do is return all of the actively running items on my system. And I don't have very many on my system. We're probably going to have to look at another system to get a bigger selection of these. But for right now, we'll look for active timelines on my system. Let's at least take a look at the knowledge view. So again, it's not associated with any particular object. There is nothing special on the configure tab at all. I am still returning timeline instances and only timeline instances. Because what I want to do is look at the properties for these timeline instances. I'm going to need to access these properties to make the appropriate changes to them. In this case, somebody's on leave. They are not going to complete that task. Somebody needs to do it. So I'm going to need to reassign somebody else. So first I need to find that timeline instance. And largely you can usually do it in the content list itself by looking into active timelines and then just searching for the particular request. If I can't do that, then it's nice to be able to fall back on something that just shows me all of my actively running processes. Now, this assumes that you don't have 10,000 actively running processes, which you might do. I don't on this system, so I can be a little looser in my filters, but I only want to return timeline instances. The columns, we'll just pretend that we have the standard columns here. But I do need to do at least one thing, and on my system, because I have so few running processes, I can just say, find me all of my active timelines. That might not be appropriate for you. You might need to add an and condition to, search for perhaps something in the name to sort of narrow it down. So I might want to have name contains and then just give you a prompt user when run checkbox. So by default, it's going to return everything, but I can filter it by the name. That might return less. The problem is if you have a big system and you have a lot of things running, well, the number of items that you get returned in a knowledge view, it's going to be somewhere around there as a default. And you may have more than 100 active processes running. So you may need to filter your processes a little more than just saying, show me all active. Because if you show me all active processes and you have more than 100 processes running, you're not going to see all of the running processes. It's only going to show you the first 100 it comes across. Then it's going to stop showing you anything. So I've got to have some, on most systems, I'm going to need to have some additional filter of some type to winnow that down less than 100. I'm going to go ahead and keep this here. I'm never going to use it because I always have less than 100 actively running processes on this system at any one time. But this is pretty much what your system should look like. And once you've got that set, you can update and run it, and it will return all the processes on your system. As you can see, I only have 12 running processes on my system. And since that is so, I don't really ever need to search for a name. They all just show up here exactly where they're supposed to be. So I need to access the actual running process. Now, from this point on, it doesn't matter whether we do it from here in this knowledge view or whether we do it from the timeline, because we're going to do it the same way. What we're going to do is we are going to click on the process timeline that we want to see. And then we're going to click on properties. And it's going to open up the timeline instance properties for that timeline. So similarly, if I go to completed timelines and, well, there's my one completed timeline for form TL, and I go there, I can click on properties and I can pull those properties there. It's going to get me to the same place, whether I do it from the content list or whether I do it from the knowledge view. I'm always going to select the process timeline and I'm going to click properties. Why can't I just click that? Well, depending on how you have it set up, you might be able to do that as well. But a lot of times it will open up the form rather than the process timeline instance. If you have a form instance associated with it, this one does not have a form instance associated with it, right? So there's no form instance to open up. Oh, I should probably tell you what I did. So when I click on this, it's going to take me to the property itself for the timeline instance. Now, here's the thing. There's no form associated with this timeline. And that's true of a lot of the processes I run. There's a lot of times when we're talking and I just run the process and we just kind of look at how the process works. There's no form. And this is one of those cases. There's no form. Also, a lot of times I go back and I delete a lot of stuff, and I might delete all of the form instances, but not delete the timeline instances. So I've got orphan timeline instances that don't have forms. This, by the way, is, I think, one of those cases because there should be an attached form associated with this process timeline, and there's not, which most likely means that I deleted that. Pro tip, when you delete the form instance, if you don't delete the timeline instance still exists and it's still running, but now it's orphaned because it doesn't have a form associated with it. That's generally not a good thing. I can check to see, by the way, if I have a form associated with this timeline, which based on the name, I should, because the name of the timeline instance, let's actually go back and look at the name of that timeline instance, is form TL WF from submitted on, and I think I may be looking at the wrong one. I think I am looking at the wrong one. Let's go back to the KView and rerun it. Let's look at what we were looking at here because I'm getting confused. All right, the very top one, attach TL, and then there's a parentheses, attach form submitted on, and then it gives you the submission date. Okay. Everything inside that parenthesis tells me I should have a form associated with this process timeline. I don't, because I've apparently deleted this form. But this tells me there is a form just by looking at the name. And if I've deleted that form, it can't open it for me. So it's just going to open up the properties for the process timeline. Now, if I do want to look at a form, and I do have one that's associated with a form, that's what the timeline items property or timeline items tab is for the properties for this thing. I can click on timeline items. I can see all of the items that are associated with this timeline. What do I not see? I do not see a form on this process timeline. So what it should look like, so let me go back into archive and go back to advanced design concepts, completed sample application. and we'll just go with advanced form TL. Don't have any active timelines. That's fine. We'll go to the completed ones. So this is what I should see, whether I'm looking at it here in the content list, which, by the way, is a knowledge view, or whether I'm looking at it in a knowledge view that I've created myself, I'm still going to see the same thing. Now, in this particular case, if I click on it and go to the references, and it went straight there because the references tab was the last thing that I had open. So let's go back and do it this way. Let's open it via properties, and it will open it up to the timeline status tab. So if I want to see all of the attachments that are associated with this, I can click on timeline items. I'm not a big fan of the fact that when I click on it, that whole tab disappears and it just shows me this knowledge view. But the knowledge view that it's showing me is all of the form or all of the process references. And in this case, there's only one, and it is my form. So I have access to my form from here. Now, I tell you all the time, and let's see if we can find, let's actually go back and see if I can find one that actually exists and has a process. So that attachment form is a good one. So let me go to custom tasks. I think it's actually form custom tasks. So let me go here. I have this attached document process. I have my attached TL. Actually, let's look at form instances I have. Okay, I have a form instance from 6/5/2024. So I should have a timeline, probably completed, from 6/5/2024. Okay, I do. Great. So I have forms and I have process timelines. So I can go to the properties here, see my main page. I'll go to my timeline items here, and I should see, and in fact do see, two things. This is the document attachment that was associated with the form. So when I attached this document, I attached it as a process attachment, which is what we recommend. And I can see my attachment here. I can see its group name here. I can see my form here. Everything that I need that's attached to this process is available to me from the process instance properties when I go to the references tab. And so I can see everything. If I had 10 document attachments, they would all be here. And I can manage them all from here. I can actually go to the properties of this particular item, this document attachment, and I can check it out and check it back in. I can make any changes I need to make to it. I have access to everything I need to manage not just the process itself, but these items as well. In fact, if I don't like this particular attachment, I've made a mistake in the attachment, I need to get rid of it. Okay, great. I can just go ahead and remove it simply by clicking remove, or as I did previously, I can just go into I don't want to download and view the document. I want to go to its properties. Sorry, I clicked on the document itself. I can go and check this document out as a Word document, and I can make whatever changes I need to make to it in Word. And once I'm done, I can simply re-upload it. I can browse for the document. I can upload a new version, and that will recheck the document back in. I'm not going to do it at this point, but once the document checks back in, it will take me back to my checkout. So I've made the appropriate edits to the document. It works, and I'm happy with my document. I can just hit the back button on my browser, and I can just go back and see all of the stuff that I can manage here as far as references. I can do the same thing with the form, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's look at what a timeline instance properties looks like. This is the timeline status tab. This basically shows me my routing slip. I can change my routing slip options here, by the way, to show any other items that I have. There's not much that's going to change on this, because I think there's only a couple of things that it might change, but let's turn everything on. And if I turn everything on, well, it shows me all of my signatures. In this case, it shows me my profile picture. Why I'd want to see that in in the routing slip. I'm not sure, but I can certainly do that. It can show me when this task was assigned, when it was completed, how it was completed. In this case, it was admin canceled, although this task was completed. It'll show me any results. Admin canceled is largely the result. So fine. The initiator that was completed, there wasn't a result because I didn't have a result scheduled for this. I don't believe I configured a result for this particular task. And there are no comments because I didn't throw in a signature comments control on this form. Otherwise, I would have values in those two columns. Okay. Cool, I guess. But most of this stuff I don't need. Most of this works just fine if I go to the default settings, because this is basically the information that I need. That's already shown to you on the default settings, but you can change those routing slip options. Also, from here, if I'm kind of curious as to what the process's form instance looks like, I have the View Timeline Form button. It will simply open up the form for me. It's a very simple form. It has a drop down to pick whatever attachment I need and has an attachment control. It's really all it does. So it's not that impressive of a form, but I can access it directly from here. Now, this is useful. It may be that someone says, hey, I need to change a value on a form, which you might be able to do, or you might not. It depends on how the form is set up. Now, this particular form allows me to edit everything. So if somebody says, hey, somebody put the wrong value on this form, can you go in and change it? They should be able to do that themselves in this particular case. But if they give you that request, you can, from right here, just open up the timeline form. And if I wanted to, I could change the value. Changing the value is not going to accomplish anything here because this control determines what document gets attached to the form, because this is the attach document custom task. So that's all it does. But I could technically change what I needed to change here, and I could hit OK, and it would save my changes. Now, as you may know, what we recommend is that you only allow forms to be editable or form controls to be editable in two circumstances. One, new form instance. Two, if it's a form control that I need to fill out as an approver to complete my specific task. Other than that, the form should not be editable once it gets submitted. So in that case, while it is often useful to look at the form to see what the form looks like and to see what its current state is, in that case, I'm not going to be able to make the change here, but we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about changing the form. Okay, great. So I've got this. I can see the form. I can see what's happening in the process. Now I need to move over to administration and timeline. This is where the majority of the work that you're going to have to do will be done. Because if you are editing the process, there's usually something going on. In our case, to go back to our example, somebody's gone on vacation and they have not completed their user task. Although in this case, the user task has been completed. So maybe we should just make a new version of this and just have one that is running, and then we'll just change the user because this is a completed task. Both these tasks are completed. So I'm going to go back here to my attach form, and I'm just going to run it real quick. And I am going to select MG371 for this one, and I'm going to submit it. And it's going to attach the form. And now I'm in the context of a task. So I'm supposed to do this task, but I'm on vacation. So I'm not going to be doing that task. Okay, I know which one it is. So I don't really need to go into since I'm already working here, I don't really need to go into where is it? I've lost the knowledge view that I created. All right, well, wherever that knowledge view is, I don't have to go to it because I'm already in my attach TL. I've already got I'm already in the folder. So I can just go to active timelines and that will open up my active timeline. I did not realize that I had an active timeline from a couple of days ago. Well, shucks, I guess I could have used that one, huh? But we have this new one here, and we'll go ahead and go into its properties. And it's running. I've got user tasks. The task is assigned to me, but I'm not here. I'm going to need to make some administrative changes to this task to ensure that it doesn't sit around for 2 or 3 weeks while the assignee is on vacation. So I am going to have to go to administration timeline. The administration timeline tab is where I do all of my management actions on the process instance itself. Up at the top, I got a couple of buttons that give me access to different things. Obviously, I can view the timeline form again, should I need to do that. Great. I can view the timeline definition. Great. I just click on that and it takes me straight to the timeline definition. Okay, that's kind of cool. I'm happy with that. Now, danger, 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 as the crocodile hunter used to say, cancel timeline. I can do that from here. There is no passing go. There's no collecting $200. If you cancel the timeline here, it will be canceled. You are the administrator. We expect that if you want to cancel things, you have your own darn good reasons for doing so. So we're going to let you. So be careful with the cancel timeline button. You also have this refresh button. I don't really have an instance I can show you of how the refresh button works, although maybe I do. Let's go back here to processes in error. Let me run this and let me pull that process in error. So here's my original timeline, and this process is in error. So let's go back and let's look at what a process in error looks like. And let's make it on this screen so that we can see it. So when we go into administration timeline, I'm sorry, I have no idea how that happened. When we go into administration/timeline, which is what I wanted to do, okay. I don't like that. Not sure what's happening there. Trouble with being on a cutting edge version, I guess. So I need to go into form custom tasks to form conversions to PDF conversion. All right, so that's kind of in the neighborhood of where we are already, way down here. So this is form conversions, and then it is to a PDF conversion. And well, there's my timeline right there. And here's my active timeline. And the timeline activity PDF conversion, I'm going to assume that this is my timeline that is in error. And indeed, it is in error. In my experience, this is most of the time where the refresh button is important. So I've got a PDF conversion error here, and I'm going to refresh. We have a product that basically, it's a very complex product. It's for medical companies for approving publications for release. So, you're going to give a symposium at a conference, or you're going to submit a study to a peer-reviewed journal, or what it might have to be. And because these are medical companies, there's all kind of hoops you got to jump through. And a lot of times, there's a lot of supporting documentation that has to be added and converted to PDF. And sometimes the PDFs that they provide are corrupted and can't be opened. And their PDF conversion fails. And so what they'll do is they'll go and they'll submit a tech support ticket saying, we have a document, it's corrupted, I've replaced it with a working version, can you please restart the process? And this is what I see on their PDF conversion task, although I think their PDF conversion task is task number 53 in their timeline. So it's a much larger timeline, but I've got to clear this out. Now, usually what I do is I do it simply by restarting the process. I'm not sure that's going to work here because I don't know exactly what the process is, but it's something is not found. So I've made a change to this form instance, to the form definition, and it doesn't exist anymore. So I simply may not be able to fix this. But I have this PDF conversion custom task. So in the case of this customer story I was telling you about, what I generally do is I just go to PDF conversion and I hit restart this activity. And then it will restart the activity. And now the activity is running. That's fine, but it still says error state up here. And also the activity is running, but I don't even know if it passed. So optimally, what I would like to be able to see is the green checkbox here rather than the arrow that says this activity is running. And I would like to see it in the review activity. And I would like this one or more activities are in an error state to disappear. So when I first restarted that activity, it did reload real quickly, but it reloaded telling me that, okay, we are now running the PDF conversion task. Well, I don't know if that task completed successfully. I'm going to suspect that it did not, but to find out, I'm going to have to click refresh in this instance. And oh, well, that's nice. Well, I fixed it. So apparently there was some problem with my PDF, and I went ahead and I don't know what I fixed, but apparently I fixed it. All I had to do is restart the task. So now I'm seeing what I wanted to see. I'm seeing my green checkbox that tells me that this task has been completed successfully. And I can see that review is highlighted with the little green arrow, and that tells me that the review task is now currently running. Great. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So that's what the refresh button does, because I'm sometimes going to need to refresh a couple of times. And for this particular customer, they may have like a lot of very long PDF documents. So hitting refresh 10 seconds after I've restarted the process is probably not going to tell me much, because I know it's going to take about 30 or 40 seconds for all of those hundreds of pages to get converted to PDF, along with all of their images and diagrams and whatnot. So I might have to hit this a couple of times just to ensure that, oh, now I'm in the review task. This task is done. Green checkbox. I have been successful in restarting that task. And that's what the refresh button is there for. That was a really long exegesis just to talk about the refresh button, wasn't it? All right, fine. So, oh, my TL is now in the review status. While I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel that timeline, the one that was in error, the one that I just fixed. And I'm just going to go ahead and cancel it. And now it is done. So look, I'm managing processes right from the content list. So back to our original process, where I am in this review task. I might as well have just stayed where I was. I'm in this review task and I need to manage it. Now, all I had to do is go to the bar and right click on it. And a minute ago, I hit restart this activity. And that's fine. That gets me out of a lot of jams, just hitting restart the activity. I can also cancel the activity. That wouldn't be particularly helpful for me in this case, because what I really want to do is I want to replace the author. Cancel the activity doesn't get me there. Sure, it ends the activity, but not in the way that I want it to end. So what I really need to do is go to the properties here. Now, I do get a good look at the properties as soon as I mouse over the activity bar for this particular activity. So I do see some properties already once I just put my mouse over there. So it's going to show me a little routing slip, going to show me what the status is. who's supposed to, what type of task it is, when it started, that it's active. When do we predict that this task is going to complete? Sometime around, um, oh, today at 9:58 a.m. So it's expecting this thing to complete pretty quick, which we are going to complete it pretty quick. It was due, by the way, if we look in the far right, it was due on 7:24 at 10:24 a.m. So we're past time, and we're past time because this person is on vacation. So I need to fix this. So while I can see these properties, there's not much I can do with them here just by mousing over. So that's why I'm going to right click my mouse button and I'm going to go to properties and I'm going to look at the properties for this activity. Now this gives me the ability to do several things. So in this case, I need this user gone and I need a new user assigned. The order in which I make that happen is important. I do not want to just click on this user. I certainly don't want to hit cancel user. I don't want to hit complete user task. And while I can remove the user, I really don't want to do that yet either. I need a new user to replace this user first before I remove the user from the active task. So right below all of these actions, and because I clicked on my name in the routing slip, it gives me a lot of extra options. And I had the standard options. I can cancel the activity. I can restart the activity. I can cancel the timeline. But all of the other stuff, cancel user, remove user, restart user, resend email. I don't want to do any of that stuff. So I'm going to go back and uncheck this. When I do, it removes all of those actions that we just saw up here in the list of action links, and it takes me back to just the overall activity actions. Only one of which I wish to do is to add users. Now, I don't have a user. I have to select one first. So just clicking add users doesn't do anything for me other than provide an error message that says, I got to select a user. You know what? You're right. I do. So we are going to add Diana to this task. So we're going to select Diana. Now, I may need a role name. I may need to say, Dale is on vacation. Diana substituting. Okay, yeah, sure. And I'm not even going to care about the spelling for that note. I shouldn't have to do this as administrator. What Dale should have done before he went on vacation is turned on delegation so that all of his tasks were delegated to whoever they were supposed to be delegated to. And as an administrator, I can go into IT admin, I can go to troubleshooting and or user admin, I think, go to delegation, and I can create that delegation and I can assign all of Dale's tasks to Diana. And that's great. Any future task Dale gets while that delegation is active will be assigned to Diana. So for the future, problem solved. But for current, I need to add Diana to this task. So I pick Diana, give a little explanation of what's going on here, and I'm going to add Diana to this task by clicking the add user button. Okay, so Diana's part of the task, and now I can go ahead, click on Dale because I have two active people running in the task, and I can either cancel this user in the task, which would be fine, or I can remove the user. I think in the choice that I make depends on how much detail I want to have inside my routing slip. So if I hit cancel user, my result, of course, will, or my status will be admin canceled. And if I have the administrative comments there, that will be saved as well. Or I can simply remove the user. I think in this particular case, I'm just going to go ahead and hit cancel user. Are you sure you want to cancel the user from this activity? Yeah, I am. And so I'm going to cancel it. So now Dale is admin canceled. So he no longer has a task. It's been removed from his task list. But Diana, note, is still showing up with a green background. That means that Diana is still active. She is the active user. It means that this task is still active. because Diana has replaced Dale as well, in this case, Diana has replaced Dale as the user. And I can see that this was all done administratively. If I need to go back later and try to track what happened to this request, the way that I've done it gives me a good track record of how this activity actually was administered by me as the administrator. Once I'm done with the timeline instance activity properties, if indeed I am, I can simply go back to the timeline itself. And now I've got this review task. And if I mouse over it again, once again, I still see the routing slip for this task. I can still see what was administratively done and who did it. It was administered by me. Well, pretty much everything that happens on the system has my name attached to it. So I can see what happened here if I ever need to come back and look at this task again. All right, so let's talk about the forms themselves and managing that. So we are going to go back up to our advanced design concepts. I thought we were going to have to do some stuff on demo. I don't think that's going to be necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and log out of demo real quick because I didn't really want to use that system anyway. Let's go back to my advanced form. I don't have any active timelines, so I think I want to create an active form instance. So we will go to my advanced form and we will run it. And I'm going to submit a request real quick, or at least I will when the form compiles and can be displayed to me, which is always a good excuse for a sip of coffee. All right, I need to add some information here. So the request type is going to be, we'll just go with paid time off. This form apparently doesn't have all the stuff it needs to have for stuff to appear and disappear. Well, that's fine. We'll go with paid time off. Taking a little vacay. And our start date will be, let's say August 5th. And let's say I work in France. So let's take that vacation to, September 19th. So I'm going to take my 6 weeks of vacation time, 264 hours total. And I don't think I need to fill anything else out here. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit my form. And once the form submits, we will be in live mode. Let's let it submit. All right, so the supervisor is reviewing this request. Very good. We'll have our supervisor approve it for right now, and that should take me into my next step. The department manager is reviewing this request, and that's as much as I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and close without saving. So now for my advanced form timeline, I can look at whether I do this again in Acknowledge to return my running tasks, or whether I do it from active timelines, doesn't matter. It's just nice to have a couple of different ways of getting here. And I'm going to click on this. Great. We're back to where we were. We see this was approved. So it was submitted. It was approved. We're now in manager approval. Were I, of course, to have to do anything here, I could certainly do that simply by restarting, canceling the activity. I could restart by the way, I didn't really mention this, but let's say the supervisor says I messed up, I didn't mean to approve it, or what have you. Or another case, the supervisor says, I denied it and I didn't mean to deny it. And so it's no longer a running task because that ends the request. It just tells the user, hey, your request got denied. And the manager says, hey, you got to fix this for me. I inadvertently denied a request. That's fine. You can do that because this activity has already occurred. And even though the timeline is still running, I can always restart this activity, or in this case, because the timeline is running, I can roll back to that activity. So whatever the manager is doing, if I roll back, we're just going to pretend like the manager approval activity never started. Now, if the timeline has been completed, so let's go in and grab a completed timeline and take a look at that. So if it's been completed and the supervisor says, oh no, I did a bad thing. Okay, well, fine. We're just going to go ahead and restart the timeline at this activity. And so what we'll see whenever we do this, are you sure you want to restart? Yes, I am. And it will restart the timeline. Now, we're going to have to scroll way over here to the right, because I now have this little tiny red bar just starting, because especially, well, I'm looking at this in days. Maybe if I look at it in weeks, it'll be easy. Yeah, if I look at it in weeks, it gets easier. There's my little bar. I've restarted my activity. Now, because I've restarted my activity, I'm in supervisor approval. Once the supervisor gets done, manager approval is going to be the next task. Notice manager approval is now teed up as the next task. The check mark is gone on manager approval. It's not grayed out. This is my successor activity. This activity is going to run when supervisor approval completes. So even though the supervisor denied it and it ended the timeline, and it sent out a disposition notification to the end user that says your request has been rejected, I can still go back in as the administrator and I can just say, fine, restart the timeline from this activity. And it's as if all of that badness never occurred. We're now back to supervisor approval. The supervisor, which is me, is going to have to approve the activity now. And once that activity has been approved, it'll go to the manager. And then once the manager approves it, it'll go to HR so that they can do their thing. And then the user will be notified that everything is fine now. So great. I'm super happy with that. And I can also go ahead and cancel these activities. By the way, notice at the top it said restart timeline. I had to hit the refresh so that I get my cancel timeline button back, because I'm not going to restart the timeline anymore. I already restarted it. Let me switch this back to weeks, by the way. I already restarted it. However, it was still showing me restart timeline. Didn't want to see that. So I hit my refresh button. Once I refreshed it, in addition to the Gantt chart being refreshed, it also refreshed my buttons up at the top. So now, because I don't really care about doing anything more with this timeline, I can go ahead and hit cancel timeline. Are you sure you want to do this? And I can hit OK, and my timeline is done. So making those kind of changes to the process is great. The form, however, can be trickier because, as I said, the form might be set up so that it's just not editable if you are not either the submitter on new form instance or one of the actual approvers who's a participant in the approval task for that activity. Otherwise, that form is going to be not editable, which means that even you, as an administrator, will probably not be able to edit that form as is. Sure, you can view it, but what you're going to view is something like this. So if some of this stuff up here needs to be changed, well, you're not going to be doing it in the form because you don't have access to these fields. Now, these fields are still there, and you could conceivably change those, although that's because this is only a partially configured form. And in the real world, these would be also disabled, so you wouldn't be able to do anything. I can see the form, just can't do anything to it. Or so you might think. But once again, now that we're talking about editing the form, we're going to do a couple of things. First thing we're going to need to do, and the only time we need to do this if we're going to edit the form itself. In fact, let's just go ahead and take a look at the form before we do it. So here are the properties of the form instance. I can't do anything in the form, but I can definitely edit the form as an administrator, just can't do it from the form. I have to do it from here. And yet, even when I go here, there's no indication that this form or any of these form fields are editable. I mean, it's great to see the information. I just can't do much with it unless I'm in debug mode. So we're going to go up here and we're going to turn debug mode on. Now, what that means is I'm going to need to refresh this thing here. There we go. Now that I've refreshed my screen, this is what the form looks like in debug mode. Now we are in a totally different situation because now I can edit stuff. Every control now has an edit column. And also, if it's in an array, it will have a row number associated with it. I don't have anything in an array here, so all my row numbers are 0. But array fields will be designated by the array row in which they appear top to bottom on the form. But I can edit now. I don't like the cavalier attitude with which I wrote my justification. I don't like the word vacay. That's too informal for me. Taking a little vacation? No, I don't like the familiarity with which this was written. Taking some vacation time, as I am authorized to do by my employment agreement. Yes, that's much better. It's more formal. Oh, wait a second. We don't need that exclamation point there. That implies an excessive emotion that is inappropriate in a professional setting. So I just want to end it with a period. So I have now edited this information here. And once I have done so, I can click update. And I now have changed the justification. And if I view the form, it will change that justification as well. Now, I edited the text editor. Probably shouldn't have done that because it's now going to save my HTML as literals that I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. Let me close that form. I'm going to go back. I'm going to re-edit. And if I think it's going to sanitize it. So I don't even think I can manually put the HTML back in. This is just one of the things with CK Editor, right? CK Editor wants to store everything as plain HTML. And that's fine because it sort of sanitizes it with this as well, so that you can't use HTML as an attack vector. So what this should be is that, and that's not what it is because it's all been sanitized. And I think if I put P there, I'm not sure, but I think if I put P in here and then I put at the very end my in paragraph, I don't know if that's going to work, and it may be that I need to take it off. Unfortunately, the text editor is a little more complex because CK Editor stores everything in HTML, or at least HTML encoded text. And then when it reads it out of the database, it converts it back into regular HTML. So if I do the P/P there. I don't know if that's going to work, but I'm going to put the paragraph tags in and we're going to look at the form again. And it may still just come out as, oh, not the form definition. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to view the form. Okay, well, at least it took the P's out. So great. I got rid of that. So it's back to plain old HTML. So just something to think about whenever you're editing as an administrator, text editor stuff. I shouldn't have picked that, but it's the only text field I had on the form, so I didn't have a choice. I had to pick that text field. I could turn on the make editable checkbox. I could add some. There's not much else I could change here. But I can change anything that I want on this form. There's nothing I want to change, but I could change anything I want. As long as I am in debug mode, I have access to change everything on the form. And that's, in this case, how I would have to do it, because this particular field, this justification field, this field is locked down, so I can't edit it on the form. So great, I can just access it via the process instance. So being able to access it via the process instance is real useful for me. I am done with debug mode now, and I really don't want to stay in debug mode, especially before I refresh my content list, because everything is going to get quickly unreadable, and I don't want to do that, because like every user, you will actually see your user UID. Form instances will show up with their form instance ID. It gets all higgledy-piggledy and hard to read. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn my debug mode off. It is off. Great. So now when I reopen this, I am out of debug mode. If I go back to my timeline items and I go to my form properties, I'm still out of debug mode. I just get to see the basic stuff there. So anything that I need to do in this process, if I click here, it gets me to where I need to be. And if I look at timeline items, it gets me to all of my timeline or attachments, whether it's the form or whether it's any document attachments, it doesn't matter. And because I'm in management view, I can simply go into properties and I can go to the properties of any object and I can edit them. I can delete them. I can do whatever I need to do simply by going to the timeline instance. I got a lot of ways to get to the timeline instance. I can get to it right from the content list, as we've been doing. I have that knowledge view, which I put somewhere but appear to have lost. I think it was up here in processes. Yeah, right there, that K view. So I have that knowledge view that I can run, and I can get to all of my processes and make whatever changes I need to get there. Multiple ways to skin a cat. The important thing, and the thing to make it easy for you whenever you are building applications that you need to manage like this, is that you need to ensure that all document attachments are process attachments, so that you can simply open the process and access both the forms and all document attachments from a single place. That way you don't need multiple, say, knowledge views to find different document attachments or different form attachments. All you really need to be able to do is to find the timeline that you're looking for and open up that the properties for that timeline instance. Which brings us to another topic as a manager, and one which, even though you don't know it yet, is obvious that I have not implemented in any of these timeline instances. And that is the instance name. And we don't talk about this much. And on this one, I did do it. So I've got a custom name on this particular one. So we do talk about it in the Advanced Design Concepts course, but we kind of lied past it a lot. But what I really need is a timeline instance name that is searchable. So for these timelines, I have everything I need. I've got the request number, which is a unique identifier. I've got the type of request that it is. I've got the submitter, and I know when it is submitted. So in my timeline instance, whenever the instance gets created, because I have the unique value for the request number in the form, and I've got the request type, and I know, of course, who the submitter and the submit date is, that allows me to uniquely identify each timeline instance in my system. This is the best practice. What I've done here is, well, largely an artifact of what happens whenever you're just doing training and you're trying to do stuff, sort of real quickly on the fly. We just don't play around with our timeline instance names. Hence, I get TL, original form submitted on O. The only thing that's unique about this is the time, because I haven't taken the effort. And by the way, there is apparently some form somewhere, original form, that was associated with it. So apparently I did submit a form, but there's nothing unique here because I have not properly named my process timelines. Now, it is helpful that the form name is there. So if you have a process timeline and it was created from a form submission and you have an appropriate name for your form, that can kind of get you out of it because the form is included in the name. So I can find stuff pretty easy. So 7-18 does get me these two forms submitted on 7/18, although there is no unique number on either the form or the process names. You're going to make your life a lot easier. Now, here I did do it. HR 24-001 paid time off request from Dale Franks, submitted 7/25/2024. So in this, I do have my appropriate custom name so that I can now say, oh, I can search for, well, in this case, HR 24 is all I really need to search for. It's going to give me that one unique item. And now I can go and grab its properties and do whatever I have to do in terms of managing this process timeline from here, which makes my life a lot better. So that's an overview of just managing from day to day. So what happens when you start blowing stuff up? So let's blow some stuff up. And I do want to get out of archive. So let's close that. In fact, let me collapse everything. Go back to training webinar. Okay, we'll go into processes. And I've got my webinar form and my webinar timeline. And there's only one activity in this process timeline. And what I'm going to want to do is add some other activities. So we'll add activity 2 and activity 3. And we are going to make them dependent on each other. So now I've got activity 1, activity 2, and activity 3 that will run in our process timeline. Let me click on there just to be sure that everything is set up right. Everything is set up right. My dependent and successor tasks are fine. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now I'm just going to submit my webinar form. And I should not have to do much to this form because I don't care about any of the controls. I just want to submit it and be done with it. So let's do that. So I'm going to submit a couple of copies of this form. At least I'm going to have to do at least 3. and I'm going to have to go through a couple of different tasks. And it's fortunate that I've put the routing slip on there so I can tell where I am in the process. Okay, so I'm going to submit this one. This should throw me into activity 1, and I'm going to close without saving from this point. Then we're going to submit another one. And there's nothing on this form. There is no reason for it to take this long to show up. So we'll submit this one. This will put us into activity 1. We're going to go ahead and review that. Oh, I must enter a comment. Okay, so that is all right. Reviewed. We'll submit it. Now I'm in activity 2. I'm done with that one. And I need to do at least one more. So let me run it one more. Oh, you know what? I'm saving and updating from here. It would be a lot quicker if I just ran it from the content list, wouldn't it? Rather than save it every time. So we'll submit, and activity 1 is okay. And now we'll go to activity 2. Yep, that's okay. We'll complete activity 2. And now we're in activity 3. Okay, let's close without saving my form. So I should have 3 active timelines running. I actually have 4 active timelines running. Fine. 2 of them are in activity 1. It looks like this is one where I've partially deleted the process, but we'll keep it because it's a good illustration. So I have 2 processes that are currently running, 2 in activity 1, 1 in activity 2, and 1 in activity 3. So got my in-flight processes running. Okay, great. So let's go back to the timeline. Now I'm going to manually just delete activity 2. I'm just going to hit remove activity. Are you sure you want to remove these activities? Yes, I am. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. I'm going to go ahead and drag activity 3 to activity 1 to set that dependency so that anything that's running in activity 1, whenever it gets done, goes to activity 3. Okay, anything that's in activity 3, well, it doesn't matter. Previous activities have already occurred. We're not going to go back and change history. So, all right, great. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and update my timeline. Not so fast. I have running activities that are running in activity 2. The current behavior, and I say current behavior because it didn't used to do this, and we go back and forth on this based on what customers want. In-flight activities are an issue. And so what's going to happen with in-flight activities, we control and we determine what's going to happen. What we had decided previously was, and by the way, this is the way it was for the first 5 or 6 years that I worked here. And we had a customer conference and we talked about it. And there are so many pros and cons. What do you do to an in-flight process that is running and I am making a fundamental change to the process, whether I manually delete it like this? And by the way, the same thing would happen if I imported it from an external system with these changes. I still have the same problem. What am I going to do with activity 2? What we used to do was just delete activity 2, and any in-flight activity that was running in activity 2, well, we just put the timeline into an error state. So what that meant was, if you were going to make a fundamental change, if you were going to remove an activity, and it's the removing the activity that's the issue. If you're going to remove an activity, I really have two choices. I can either refuse to move it to keep the activity running, and then I got to figure out, okay, what does that mean for any future activities? Or you can do what we used to do, just say, all right, fine, delete the activity, throw the process into an error state. So what you would have to do as an administrator is export your changes, import them into production, and then immediately go to the process as an error, find all of the activities that were in an error state, and simply cancel the activities. And then I think what you had to do is you had to start the subsequent activity that you wanted them to go to, because we didn't know where you wanted it to go. So basically we said, okay, fine, you've deleted this activity. You have running instances that are running in that activity. Okay, sure, we'll delete it. You got to figure out how to fix it. Which, if you knew what you were doing, you could do. But if you were a little hazy on how to manage timeline instances, it became a little tough. Okay, I've got this activity. It's an error. It doesn't exist anymore. What do I do? Do I just cancel the activity? Okay, you can cancel the activity, but it's still an error because that activity doesn't exist. So we no longer know what its successor activity was. So what do? Now we've got to subsequently, after we do that, we now have to start the activity, whatever it is that we now want to start. And the problem is, if I have 150 of these things running in activity 2, that means that I have to go into 150 separately running activity instances, and I have to manually change them. And so customer said, look, we understand why you're doing this. And it's kind of funny. One customer said, look, I know we asked for it to work this way, but having it work this way is a pain. So can we have it work a different way? So fine, we gathered some data. And so what we thought is we'll change the behavior for deleting an activity. So now when you delete an activity, if there are any running, it just doesn't. This activity still exists. And you cannot delete it until all of the running instances that are running in activity 2 are complete. And so you're going to get this message. Activity 2 was deleted, but their activity is still running. Those need to be canceled or completed to delete this activity. Now, this still does raise a bit of an issue depending on how you've changed the process. The change that I made was a really simple one. I just had activity 2, which had as its successor activity, activity 3. And for me, it's going to be fine. I don't really have to do anything except make a mental note that next week or next month or whatever, I am going to have to come back and re-delete activity 2. And nobody should be in activity 2 because my new process timeline is going from activity 1 to activity 3. This activity still exists, but it's basically an orphan activity. In fact, notice it's gray here. So this activity is only going to stick around and is only going to be used for running activities. So I will be able to come back and delete it. And until I come back and delete it later, it's never going to run again. My process timeline is going to now go from activity 1 to activity 3. And that's cool. That's easy. All I have to do is just get out of activity 2 and I can come back and change this. That's only true because I made such a simple change to this process timeline instance or this timeline definition. What if I had deleted activity 2 and activity 3, and then I added activity 4? In the current state, when activity 2 is done, it's automatically going to go to activity 3. It's going to do that because activity 3 was identified as its successor activity when the activity started. So this is all going to run no problem. But what if I had deleted activity 3 and added activity 4? Activity 2 is going to end. And if I had anybody running in activity 3, it would still stick around. But then the process timeline doesn't know where to go. So at that point, it's probably going to drop into an error state because it was supposed to go from activity 2 to activity 3. Now activity 3 has been erased, and an activity that didn't even exist when this all started has been added. Process timeline is not going to know what to do because both activity 2 and activity 3, they now don't know what their successor activities are because they've both been deleted. Well, activity 2 does, but activity 3 doesn't. So that is going to have to be managed as well. If you're going to make a fundamental change to the process timeline, if it's going to be something this easy, you can get away with it. It's a little inconvenient, but because you're going to have to come back later whenever your activity 2 is done and delete it. So if I go into my active timelines, which I'll just go ahead and do, this one is in activity 2, right? So we'll go to the timeline form. We'll just complete activity 2. Well, it's not going to open it as fine. We'll administratively cancel activity 2. So we'll just cancel this activity. Now there's no activity 2. It doesn't exist. Give it time to cancel. There we go. Now we can refresh. Fine. We're now running in activity 3. That's what I want to see. So now I can go back here to webinar and I can pick activity 2 and I can just remove that activity and I can update my process timeline, and my timeline has been updated. Nobody's in activity 2 anymore. Now I can go back and delete it. That's easy mode. But if I deleted activity 2 and 3 and then added 4 more activities and made a whole bunch of other changes like that, I think the argument I would make is that you are not actually editing the process. You're creating a new process. So you may want to take a careful look at whether this is just a new process you're making. It happens to be similar to the old process, but you've made such a fundamental change to the way the process works, it's not really the same process anymore. In that case, maybe your easiest solution would just be to sunset the old application, take this new application, put it on your system, and say, ta-da, use the new thing, and stop people from using the old thing. So it will just age out whenever the last of its running instances are completed. And then you could just revoke anybody's access to it and just keep it around for historical reasons. And everybody switches over to the new app. Because if you're going to make that kind of change, there's no easy management solution to how you are going to manage those running instances when you do the re-import. Because if you've now removed existing activities and added new activities, those are all going to error out eventually as well, because Process Director is not going to know where to go from these deleted activities to all these new activities that you've created, because you have fundamentally changed the way it works. So if you're going to make that level of change, you're going to have a management burden on going into timeline instances and just manually fixing them, because, under the old system, because we just automatically threw everything into an error state and you had to go and correct it all manually, or under the new system, whenever the activities get done, they'll eventually go into an error state because you've made too fundamental a change to the process timeline. So you do need to keep in mind, if you're going to make that level of change, you need to consider whether you're actually dealing with the same application or literally a new application with a new process. But there's going to be a management burden either way. There's no easy way of making changes to a timeline when you have a bunch of running instances, except for very simple changes that are not going to impose a fairly significant uh, timeline or process management burden on you as an administrator as you try to handle how you're going to want your running instances to work. Ultimately, they're going to be managed. You can manage them all at one time when you do the import, the way the way we did it in the old system, or you're going to have to manage them on a day by day basis as they age out and can't figure what to do. And so, rather than doing 150 in one day, you're now going to have to do, 25 a day for the next 5 days. Either way, you're probably going to have some level of management burden that you're just going to have to deal with. And there's no global, hey, do this for everything running and make this change magic that is going to occur. It doesn't exist. You're going to have to go into each individual instance and manage them individually. I understand that's a pain, but once you start changing existing processes, that's something you have to live with. Forms, a little bit different. What time is it? Holy smokes, it's 11:46. Where does the time go? Forms are a bit different. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add some controls to this form. So we'll add 1, 2, and 3 text boxes. And we'll save and close the form definition. Okay, great. These controls did not exist in older forms. So what are we going to do about that? Actually, we probably, in most cases, don't have to do anything. Now, the data that we've just put into a new form, so let's go back to processes here. Wow, I should have hit OK, shouldn't I? Well, too late now. I've done it. The Ilia e acta est. The die is cast. So let's run this form. Oh, well, great. I've got my 3 control. Oh, well, okay. Well, there's that. Okay. I keep hitting a function button, which keeps reloading the form. So let's submit that. Okay, great. By the way, let's review our form in activity 1, and it should toss me now into activity 3. So we know that that's working fine. And now I've got these new values here. And in fact, let's run it one more time. And let's submit that one, and we'll just keep it in activity 1. We're fine. We'll just close that without saving. Okay, great. So let's go back now and look at our active timelines. And let's go back to one of the early ones. This one is still running in activity 1. This was an early form. So we're going to go to its properties, and then we are going to go to timeline items. And there is the form. So we're going to click on that. We're going to go to that form's properties. Well, there were no controls on that form, and they still don't exist. Now, if I look at the form itself, they're there. They're just empty. And if I go into the form definition, form controls tab, form definition. Okay, they exist. So by the way, now I've got controls that didn't exist for half of my instances and that now exist for the other half. So there may be some things that I need to do, and I'm going to have to go back into debug mode to do them. So I'm going to go back into debug mode, and I have one thing that I can do for the old instances. Now, the form instances exist, even though the controls did not. So as far as those old form instances are concerned, all of those values are null. They're empty. They have no value. They were never figured out. or they were never filled out. Okay, great. That's what we expect because we just created these de novo. If I go into debug mode, though, I can do one thing, and that is I can set a default value for all of those old instances. And I can do it field by field. So I can go into default value for updating old instances. I can put ZZZ and I can update all of the old instances on all of the forms with the value of ZZZ as the default value of this new field input 4. It's going to ask me if I'm sure, and please be sure there's no takesies backsies. Once you hit OK, those old instances have been updated. So if I go back to my form instances, let me hit cancel, let me hit OK, let me save everything. Let me go back to my form instance. I should be able to open up this old form instance and see ZZZ up there at the very top of the form. So it made my changes for me. By the way, see how ugly everything gets when you're in debug mode? That's why we don't keep it turned on. Great. I could do that for input 5 and input 6 as well. I could change all of those old fields and I'm a happy camper. Now, every form has a value of ZZZ or whatever value I manually entered into it, because if I do go to one of the new forms, we should probably open that. That doesn't say ZZZZZ because I manually filled that field out. So this is the value that was filled out on submission. I certainly don't want to get rid of that. And in fact, I have not. I've kept it. I only have ZZZ on these old forms where that field did not exist. Great. Oh, yeah. This is debug information. Tells you how long it takes to do stuff. So now what happens if I go back into my form and I want to go to the form definition and oh my goodness, I really do have to turn debug mode off. I go back into my form and I say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go back over here and we're going to find input 4, which I added right there and which I just did all that data for and stuff. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. And I'm just going to save and close my form because I don't really need that field. Okay, so far we have added a new field. We have submitted some instances that are still running where we added the new data. And then we have all of the old form instances, some of which, by the way, are still running. And we've added zzz as the value of all of the old instances. Okay, well, what happens now? So far, very little. We have deleted input 4 from the form and it doesn't show up. So we can certainly run our form and we won't see it. Let's just run the form real quick. Okay, input 4 is gone. We have input 5 and input 6. Okay, we're happy with that. When we look at the form definition, actually, let's not even look at the form definition. Let's look at one of our active timelines. It doesn't matter which one. And we'll go to its properties and we will go to timeline items and we will go to webinar form and we will check its properties. And there we go. I have a field called input 4 with a value of z. And even though it doesn't appear on the form, it does appear in all of my instances. What I have done is I have deleted this field from the form template, but it still exists as a database field. I have not deleted it as a database field. I have a choice. I can either remap everything that used to be in input 4 to input 5. So I can pick input 5 and then I can click remap and it will take all of my values from input 4 and stick them into input 5, if that's what I want to do. Or I can hit delete. Once I hit delete, now I'm deleting data. So I can delete a field off the form. And as long as I don't delete the actual data control, that data, as we just saw, is still available in Process Director. I can still use it. I can still access it. Now, I can't access it in any place other than debug mode as an administrator. So I might want to keep it for historical purposes. But you're always going to see this then whenever you go into form controls, because you have all these existing instances that have that data. Ultimately, somebody's either going to click there or they're going to click there. And it's going to tell you this is going to destroy all of the data associated with your controls. Are you really sure that you want to do this? You can't undo it. Again, no takesies, backsies. But now if I hit OK, now input 4 is gone. And it's really gone. And if I go into my form instances and I go to the properties, input 4 is gone. However, there's still this value that is still here for input 4. It's not really gone. However, I don't really have any way of recovering it again other than to look at the form instance itself. There's no way I'm not going to be able to query it. I'm not going to be able to pull it back in knowledge views. The control name is showing up here inside square brackets because that control has been deleted. It no longer exists. And so that value is inaccessible. It doesn't appear here. I'm only going to see it when I go into the form instance, and I didn't mean to hit export. When I go into the form instance and I go to its properties, I'm still going to see my ZZZ, or in the case of one of the newer ones, form properties, I'm going to see this, but there's no control type because there's no control. I just have this data. It's not fully orphaned, but other than seeing it here on the properties page of the form, there's literally nothing I can do with it. It's just no longer accessible. On the other hand, if I go back into my webinar form, it's 11:57. I think I can get this in. And I put in a new text box and I call it input 4. And I save and close my form. So let's let it save and close. And we'll look at our form controls. I do have a form control called input 4. Let's go and look at our form instances, properties. It still doesn't exist. Yeah, it still doesn't exist. It's gone. It is still orphaned because I did not remap it. Calling it input 4 still doesn't help. I actually was doing that off the top of my head to see if I could get it done before we could do it. I actually didn't know how that would work. I was prepared for input 4 to work, but it's not going to work. And I'll tell you why it's not going to work. If we look at our properties, well, if we go into debug mode on and we look at our properties for this form, that's why it's not going to work. Because that form control ID doesn't exist on this form. I replaced it with another form or another control. And even though I called it input 4, the name is immaterial. So I was hoping that it wouldn't work this way, but it does. It's looking for the form control ID, the GUID that identifies the form control. It didn't find it. And so unfortunately, input 4, the old input 4, is still orphaned on this form, but I can view the form. Well, I keep hitting that, and we'll hit reviewed. Great. So now it has a value in that form field, and we'll come back here and refresh. and I still have the old input 4, even though I now have a new input 4 value. As you can see, they are two entirely separate controls with two different form control IDs. So thought I would do that trick real fast and see what happened. And well, we learned what happened. So there we go. Q&A. What happens if the 2 days duration has been reached and the supervisor has not approved? Would it still move forward to the next step without the supervisor's approval? No. It will not. It's going to stay in that activity until the activity is done. Now, you can force it to do that. You can do notifications or escalations, or you can cancel the activity and move to another activity. There's things you can do, but by default, if it reaches 2 days, it's just overdue. It's still assigned to the original user, and that user has to complete that task. And Dan, if you are still here, you are. Why is having accurate duration estimates important? I think I missed something. The importance is to ensure that your configuration roughly matches how the real world works. If you are not going to configure your processes in a way that you believe adequately mirrors the real world, then why do durations matter at all? But presumably there is some either constraint or some rule or some other requirement that your process should be done in a certain amount of time. People have a certain amount of time to do their activities, and your process should reflect how you expect the real world to work. And that's why having accurate times on your activities is important, because if you're not going to monitor or reflect how the real world works, then you kind of have to question what it is that you're doing and why you have durations at all in that case. I mean, why not just go back to a flow chart and have a flow chart determine how your activity works? And we just don't care about time, except that time is a process driver, and we often do care about time. And so durations are thus important if time is a process driver, as it often is. Thank you very much for attending. I have gone a little bit over today. I appreciate the 2 extra minutes that you've given me. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. So long.